I gave them $263,200, thinking I was helping. They bought golf clubs, cruises, a lakefront condo, and called me too dumb to realize she's being used. At that moment, I ceased to be their daughter and began to feel a sense of completion. I had to keep my phone away from my ear as my mother yelled into the phone, "Don't you dare pretend you didn't know what you were doing. We are related. You can't simply leave us because you're upset." Feeling a peculiar combination of anger and numbness, I sat in my home office and stared at the April rain pelting my Burlington townhouse's windows. My brother Dylan unintentionally sent a simple text message to our family group chat, instead of the private one he shared with our parents, and it caused everything I thought I knew about my family to suddenly fall apart in front of my eyes. Sloan Reed is my name. Up until recently, I believed that by supporting my parents with their retirement expenditures, I was simply being a good daughter. I am 35 years old. After graduating from college, I launched a profitable marketing consultancy business from the ground up, and 6 years ago, it really took off, so I started giving my parents additional money every month. I wanted to ensure that they could enjoy their retirement without having to worry about basic necessities because they had always suffered financially. I had no idea how they actually perceived me. My brother texted me that the Family ATM had just delivered another $2,500, and my dad replied, "LMAO, keep that gravy train running. She's too dumb to realize we're using her." Then, Jordan would be furious to learn that her money was going to those golf clubs, rather than the medic, as my mother recently purchased the ones your father desired. The screen grabs continued, talking about how to control me for years, how to appeal to my pity, how to get more money. I scanned through message after message, gasping for air. In a hurry, Dylan attempted to remove them, but it was too late. I had witnessed everything. They laughed at my charity for 3 years, upgraded their automobiles while complaining their heating bill was too high, and planned lavish holidays while informing me they couldn't afford their prescription drugs. My relatives had been bombarding my phone with calls and texts for the past day. My father insisted that they were merely making jokes. I was taking things out of context. According to my mother, Dylan stated that he was only complying in order to maintain our parents' favor. However, the unpleasant reality had been revealed by their own words. The tempest raging inside me matched the intensity of the rain outside. For years, I had been providing for their nice retirement, believing that I was assisting them in surviving. They had been enjoying themselves in the interim, giggling at how simple it was to control their foolishly successful daughter. I couldn't have predicted how deeply the betrayal would sting. My thoughts were interrupted by a harsh knock. Still holding my phone, I walked over to the door and peered through the peephole. Dylan stood on my porch, drenched, his face beseeching. I saw my jaw getting tense. I wasn't prepared for this discussion, but perhaps it was time to listen to him. Ultimately, I also had some things to say. I blocked the entrance, but opened the door. "What do you want?" Dylan's hair was soaked with rain, and he looked terrible. "Jordan, please. Can I come in? I can explain everything." "Explain what?" "How you've all been laughing at me for years." My phone was still displaying one of his texts when I held it up. "Just told Jordan Dad needs dental surgery, sin." Dylan begged, "It's not what it looks like," in a sharp voice. "Mom and Dad, they started it, and I just went along with it." "So you were just following orders, like some kind of financial Nazi." I couldn't stop myself, but the words came out harsher than I had intended. "I've been sending $2,500 every month, Dylan. That's $36,000 a year. For 5 years. Do you know what that adds up to?" Dylan cast a downward glance. "I know it's a lot. $180,000, Dylan. And that doesn't include the extra for Dad's supposed medical expenses or Mom's broken furnace last winter." Recalling how I had foregone a vacation to send them an additional $5,000 for a furnace that evidently never needed to be replaced, I felt nauseous as I said the words. Look, they took it too far, I know. But they're getting older, and they're 65, not 95. Dad's still golfing every weekend with his fancy new clubs that I paid for while thinking he needed medication. Now, I didn't care if the neighbors heard me yelling, "Please, Jordan." They're freaking out. Dad's worried about his heart medication. I gave a sour laugh. The medication that doesn't exist. Or the real medicine he actually needs that I've been paying for while you all blow the money on luxury items. Dylan's expression fell flat. I messed up. I know that, but they really do need your help now. All those extras, they've gotten used to the lifestyle. They can't afford their mortgage without you. Their mortgage? On the lakeside condo they bought last year, while telling me they were struggling to pay rent on their modest apartment. A peculiar serenity descended upon me. I think you should leave. Jordan, please. No. I've been Jordan, please for too long. Now I'm just Jordan, and Jordan is done. My whole body shook as I collapsed onto my couch after Dylan left. I kept thinking about the screenshots from their group conversation. My father wrote in one, "I just notified Jordan that the roof is leaking. This time, let's see how much we can get out of her." In response, my mom said, "I'm such a sucker for helping family." I nearly feel sorry for myself. Nearly? Dylan then suggested that we establish a betting pool based on how soon she transfers the funds. To them, I had been nothing more than an ATM, a resource that must be depleted, a joke. After taking out my laptop, I went to my banking portal and signed in. For the previous 5 years, $2,500 was deposited into my parents' joint account each month. An additional $40,000 over the years, plus all the emergencies, dental work that never took place, auto repairs for non-existent issues, bills for medical care they never got. And what had I given up? In order to assist them with their alleged mortgage issues, I postponed purchasing my own house for 2 years. To pay for my life and theirs, I had put in 60-hour work weeks. To ensure their comfort, I had foregone holidays, purchased used furnishings, and made compromises in my own life. For what purpose? In order for them to make fun of me, in order for them to purchase golf clubs and go on cruises while I was concerned about their diet. My hidden goal was to surprise them with a supplemental retirement fund when they turned 70. So I opened a new tab and logged into the investing account I had created for them 3 years prior. Every month, I had been making a $1,000 contribution. There was a little over $42,000 on the balance. Over the close account button, my finger lingered. No, not quite yet. For this, I needed to think clearly. My best friend Tessa, who was also my lawyer, answered the phone. When I told her what had happened, she virtually shrieked. They did what? I know, I answered in a hollow voice. I've been an idiot. No, Jordan, you've been kind. They're the ones who should be ashamed. She lowered her voice. What do you want to do? I said, I don't know, in admission. Part of me wants to just cut them off completely. Another part wants to confront them and hear them try to explain themselves. Before you do anything, we need to review what you've set up for them legally. Are they on any of your accounts, insurance policies, or the retirement supplement you mentioned? I was cold. I hadn't even considered how intertwined our finances were. 2 years ago, I added them as dependents to my premium health insurance policy, in addition to the monthly transfers and the investment account. My plan included coverage for my father's heart medicine, which I now doubt existed. My life insurance policy also named them as beneficiaries. I need to untangle all of this, I said out loud before realizing, with Tessa's advice, one step at a time. First, gather all the documentation of what you've given them. Bank statements, texts asking for money, everything. Second, make a list of all financial connections you need to sever. Third, decide if you want to communicate with them about why you're doing this. My mother texted me as I hung up, and my phone buzzed. Your father is very upset. His blood pressure is through the roof because of your behavior. We need to talk. Now, Something hardened within me. Even now, the deception was continuing. They still believed that if they brought up a health issue, I would immediately come running, that I would fold. No more. I started capturing screenshots of each monthly transfer after I opened my laptop once more. I then prepared a document called Family Financial Support, 5 years, in which I listed all of my sacrifices and alleged emergencies. The document was 12 pages long when I was done, and I couldn't avoid the fact that I wasn't merely hurt. I was finished. I woke up the following morning feeling more clear-headed than I had in years. All of a sudden, my course was quite apparent. I called in to work and informed my assistant that I wanted a personal day before any uncertainty could set in. I would have to give this my whole focus. 20 minutes later, my phone rang and I answered. Sloan Reed speaking. Miss Wright, this is Samuel from Vermont Community Bank. I'm returning your call about closing an investment account. Yes, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. I inhaled deeply. I need to close the supplemental retirement account I set up for Robert and Marla Reed. I see. May I ask if there's a problem with the account? No problem with the account, I replied. Just a problem with the intended recipients. Samuel guided me through the procedure after verifying my identification and account authority. I had the authority to close the account without my parents' knowledge or approval because I was the only controller, and it had been meant as a gift. Within 3 business days, the $54,200 would be returned to my principal account. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Miss Wright? Actually, yes. I'd like to cancel all recurring transfers to the joint account belonging to Robert and Marla Reed. Those are currently set at $2,500 monthly, correct? Correct. I spoke without faltering. I'd like that stopped immediately. First step, finished. I then gave my health insurance company a call. This one was more difficult. A qualifying life event was needed for mid-year adjustments to dependents, and finding out your parents have been defrauding you wasn't one of them. However, Miguel, a friendly representative, came up with a solution when I explained my predicament. Since they have their own residence and you no longer provide more than 50% of their financial support, we can process this as a change in dependent status, he said. They'll receive notification that they've been removed from your policy, effective at the end of the month, which gives them 30 days to find alternative coverage. That's perfect, I informed them. Thank you for understanding. Family situations can be complicated, Miguel's kind words acknowledged. Been there myself. Step 2 finished. The simplest change was to the life insurance policy. Using a straightforward online form, a local children's charity took my parents' place as beneficiaries. I had methodically severed all financial ties to my family before noon. Aside from one, I had been making payments on my brother Dylan's college loan for the last 3 years. He still owed $580 a month for the next 2 years. I paused at that one. Although Dylan had taken part in the fraud, he also appeared to have sincere regrets. Had our parents put pressure on him, or did he simply regret being caught? Dylan texted me and my phone rang. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad says his prescription refill was denied at the pharmacy. What did you do? That resolved that query. No apologies or understanding, only increased pressure to get the money flowing again. I answered, their repercussions are no longer my concern. My phone rang right away. Dylan. It was left on voicemail. I opened my email instead and attached the 12-page document I had written the previous evening to a formal letter I wrote to my parents. I gave it the straightforward title, Financial Support Provided, 2018 to 2023. The email said, Patricia and Robert, a detailed accounting of the $263,200 in financial assistance I have given over the last 5 years is attached. All support has ended as of today. With effect from May 31st, you are no longer covered by my health insurance policy, and the retirement account has been closed. Screenshots of your own communications have been used to illustrate your deceit, showing how you have routinely tricked and misled me while making fun of my charity. Please don't get in touch with me again until you need to reimburse me for the money you stole under false pretenses. Right, Jordan. I sent it after reading it twice and attaching the document. Step 3 finished. Then, fatigued but relieved, I leaned back in my chair, deleted them from my social media accounts, and blocked their numbers on my phone. I had money that was really mine for the first time in years. Before they figured out how to get around my obstacles, I was able to enjoy 3 days of wonderful silence. 8:30, P saw the ring at the doorbell. As I was looking over proposals from clients, I could see my dad and Dylan standing on my porch through the peephole, their faces a mix of panic and rage. The door was not opened by me. I gave Tessa a call instead. I said, "They're at my house," as though they could hear me over the walls. Her words, "Do not let them in," were forceful. "If they don't leave, call the police for trespassing." That feels extreme. Trust me, Jordan. Once they're inside, it'll be much harder to get them out, physically and emotionally. The doorbell rang once more, then began to pound. "Jordan," exclaimed my dad, "we know you're in there. You can't just cut us off without talking to us." "I have nothing to say," I texted Dylan. "I'll contact the police, so please leave." I watched through the peephole as Dylan looked at his phone, showed it to my parents, and then got into what seemed to be a heated argument. My father's face had gone a frightening shade of crimson, and my mother appeared to be crying. My father yelled, "You're going to regret this, Jordan. We're family. You can't just abandon us," before they finally left. I didn't miss the irony of his use of the word abandon. Years ago, they had given up on the idea that they loved me, viewing me as nothing more than a resource to be used. The emails began the following morning. My father's health deteriorated without his medication, so my mother wrote a long guilt trip about it. In a sharp message, my father demanded that I immediately cease this immature behavior. Dylan begged that without my assistance, our parents would not be able to pay their mortgage. Without answering any of them, I sent them all to Tessa. My parents sent me a certified letter 3 days later. There was a note from my mother, written by hand. "Jordan, we don't know why you're punishing us in this manner. Yes, we did make a few offensive jokes, but that's what families do. Without insurance, your father's heart medication costs $380 a month. We need your assistance to pay off our mortgage, which is due next week. Do you want to risk losing our condo for your old folks to be without a home? Please speak with us and put an end to this abuse." The old man's remark almost made me giggle. Both were in good health and were 65 years old. According to the pictures of the country club Dylan had inadvertently shared in one of those fatal snapshots, my father's golf skills had never been better. I pretended to be my mother and contacted the drugstore where my father filled his prescriptions. "I'm calling about my husband Victor Reed's heart medication. What's the cost without insurance?" "Let me check," responded the pharmacist. "It's $35 for a 30-day supply, Mrs. Wright," she said after a pause. "Not $450. One more untruth. As I was leaving my workplace that night, Dylan arrived. His clothing was rumpled, and he had black circles under his eyes. He said, "Jordan, please," and moved ahead of me. "They're falling apart. Dad's talking about bankruptcy." I tried to avoid him by saying, "That's not my problem." "How can you be so cold? They're our parents." "Are they?" Sincere parents don't exploit their kids. True parents don't make fun of their children behind their backs for being so foolish and naive. They made mistakes, but— "No," I interrupted him. "A mistake is forgetting a birthday. What they did was calculated and cruel. They had been doing this for years, Dylan. Years. The condo is going into foreclosure. They can't make the payments without you." I experienced a little twinge of guilt. Then I recalled a screen grab. I just told Jordan that we're having trouble paying our rent. Next week, we will close on the lake condo. Let's toast. They shouldn't have bought a place they couldn't afford, I replied bluntly. What about Dad's medication? The prescription that costs $35, not $380. He can get a job at Walmart if he needs to cover that. Dylan's eyes got bigger. How did you? I did my research. No more lies, Dylan. To get to my car, I walked by him. Tell them to look into government assistance programs. That's what they're there for. He called after me and said, Jordan, they're considering moving in with me. I can't handle that. I went around again. That sounds like a you problem, Dylan. Welcome to consequences. I was sitting in a therapy appointment that I had finally planned for myself, 2 weeks after cutting off contact with my family. I told the entire vile tale to Dr. Morgan, a 50-something woman with a sharp mind and gentle eyes. Every day I swing between feeling strong and feeling horrible, I said. Like yesterday, I learned that my parents had to revoke their membership at the country club via a common friend. In fact, I spent hours feeling bad about it. That's normal, informed Dr. Morgan. You're mourning the family you believed to be yours. Grieving the part you played as their advocate is part of it. But they didn't deserve my support. They were using me. Both statements may be true simultaneously. You can still feel bad about stopping to support them since they didn't deserve it. While Dr. Morgan went on, I thought about that. It's obvious that being the family provider shaped who you are. You're now redefining yourself in the absence of that role. She was correct, but I hadn't considered it that way. I had equated my value for 5 years with being the prosperous daughter who could provide for her parents. Now, who was I? My father's brother, Uncle Reed, who lived in Oregon across the nation, called me out of the blue as I was wrapping up my session. I responded out of curiosity, even though we weren't close. This is Uncle Reed, Jordan. Your father called me out of the blue to ask if he and your mother might stay with us for a time. Is it accurate that he claimed they were going to lose their house and that you had cut them off financially? I let out a sigh. It's complicated, Uncle Reed. I figured. Your dad has always had a talent for selective storytelling. His voice sounded flat. Want to tell me your side? I explained everything, including the false information regarding medical costs and the screenshots. There was a long pause when I was done. Finally, I'm not surprised, he remarked. Your father tried to pull similar stunts with me years ago. It's why we're not close. I refused to fund his lifestyle. You knew? I experienced betrayal once more. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? They had you convinced they were struggling, and you were their hero. Sometimes people have to discover the truth themselves. He was correct. I never would have trusted him. For what it's worth, he said, I told your father I wouldn't take them in. I suggested they downsize and live within their means. He hung up on me. I felt oddly validated after we parted ways. I wasn't insane for interrupting them. I wasn't a bad daughter at all. They had been manipulating me lately, and I had finally realized my mistake. Later that night, Dylan texted me from a different number. Next week, Mom and Dad will move into my spare room. The unit is being sold. It's infuriating, Dad. It's unbelievable that this is taking place. I didn't answer. After 3 days, there was another text. The unit is for sale. Yesterday, Dad's automobile was repossessed. This is becoming a serious problem. I nearly responded to the text, nearly inquired if they required assistance with relocation costs. However, I then recalled a specific screenshot in which Dylan had written, Jordan just inquired after Dad's well-being following his doctor's visit for the non-existent cardiac condition. They had decided what to do. They were now dealing with the fallout. In the 3rd week, I received an email from a person I didn't know. The message from your parents is the subject line. Apparently, since I had banned them everywhere, they had asked a family friend to get in touch. The message explained how they had to file for food assistance, which my proud father thought was dishonorable. How they had to sell the majority of their furniture, and how the stress was negatively affecting my father's health. They simply want an opportunity to speak with you, the email said, to apologize and provide an explanation. I gave it 5 seconds of thought before selecting delete. Whatever they believed would turn the money faucet back on would be their concept of an apology. I had had enough of manipulation. I've finished being their ATM. My money was going toward my future, not their fictitious crises. For the first time in years, something unexpected was taking the place of the guilt. Liberty. My parents were sitting on my porch steps when I got home from a business trip, 8 months after I had severed all communication. My mother's meticulously cultivated highlights had grown out, exposing gray roots, and my father had lost weight. Both of them were dressed in unfamiliar, less expensive-looking clothing than what they usually wore. My first impulse was to drive away and turn around. However, in therapy, Dr. Morgan and I had talked about this possibility. Now I was stronger. I could confront them without being coerced. With my heart racing, I parked in the driveway and walked slowly up. "What are you doing here?" My mom's voice broke. "Jordan, please, we just want to talk." My father went on to say, "We've learned our lesson. These past months have been hell." My door was unlocked. "You have 5 minutes." They sat clumsily on my couch inside, and I stood with my arms folded. My mother said, "We're sorry first. We never should have taken advantage of your generosity." My dad gave a nod. "We've lost everything. The condo, the car, our savings. We had to move in with Dylan, and his place is so small your mom sleeps on a pullout." My mother went on to say, "The country club revoked our membership. All our friends there, they don't call anymore. Without your insurance, the cost of my medications has been exorbitant," my father added. "Medicare doesn't cover everything." While I waited for a genuine apology, I heard them enumerate all the things they had lost. It never materialized. Neither "we're sorry we hurt you," nor "we were wrong to mock you" was present. Just a list of their troubles, and an insinuation that I was to blame. When they eventually stopped talking, I said, "Is that it?" My mother stated, "We want to make things right. We've really suffered, Jordan. We've learned our lesson." What lesson would that be? They looked at each other. My father finally said, "We shouldn't have taken you for granted." Translation: They ought to have exercised greater caution to avoid detection. "No," I muttered. "You haven't learned anything." My mother asked, her voice raising a little, "What do you mean?" "We came all this way to apologize." "No, to tell me how much you've suffered without my money. You've come this far. You have never once expressed regret for the way your treachery affected me." "We said we're sorry," my dad objected. "For getting caught, maybe. Not for what you did." I inhaled deeply. Over the last 8 months, I've given a lot of consideration to what constitutes a healthy family. This isn't it. It is not appropriate to make fun of your child behind her back and treat her like an ATM. My mom's expression grew stern. "So you're just going to keep punishing us over a few jokes?" "This isn't a penalty. I'm defending myself against those who have demonstrated that they don't have my best interests at heart." My father said, "We're your parents," as though that clarified everything. "And I was your daughter, not your personal bank." I walked over to the door and opened it. "I truly do wish you well. I wish you luck in finding a comfortable way to live within your budget. However, I am no longer able to be a part of your lives." With tears in her eyes, my mother muttered, "You can't mean that. We need you. That's the problem. You don't need me. You need what I can provide. There's a difference." My father stood, his previous remorse giving way to rage. "So that's it? After everything we've done for you?" "What exactly have you done for me, Dad, besides take and take and take?" He didn't know how to respond. My mother turned back as they left the room. "Jordan, you'll regret this. In the end, family is all you have." I gave a head shake. "No, Mother. The folks in your family are meant to love you without conditions. Together with my pals, I have created that family. Your offer was merely a business deal." I listened to their footsteps, retreating down the path as I leaned against the door and closed it. I anticipated experiencing grief or remorse. Rather, I experienced a profound sense of tranquility. The ATM was shut off for good, and I felt really free for the first time in my adult life. And in the end, Jordan didn't seek revenge through anger. She chose peace. She walked away, took back her power, and started living for herself. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence. The best revenge. Thriving, healing, living well. If you're carrying the weight of betrayal, remember, you have every right to protect your peace. Set boundaries. Grow. Let with grace. Have you ever been betrayed by the ones you trusted most? Share your story below. Let's create a space for healing, strength, and real conversations. What does freedom look like for you?